person might. Let's get this out of the way. Greetings to you. I'm waiting for the count to build up because I have a few important things to talk about today. And it will be good if we have more people there joining the live. But for those who have tuned in so far, I am grateful. From the top of my heart, I am grateful to you because you took the time. You are using your internet. Some of you are using the data on your telephone, and I know that internet is not cheap. It costs money. Everything you do costs money. So I'm eternally grateful for that opportunity to have you use your resources to tune in to what I do, to follow me on social media, to spread the word, to take the time to comment, and so on and so forth. From the top of my heart, I am grateful. I am thankful. And I encourage you to be a part of this team. We're all a community. And this community do have several people who take the initiative in their own way to speak out against the ills that continues to terrorize the smooth fabric of society and the peace that must prevail. It is an honor for me in this capacity to continue on the journey in helping all of us to arrive at the place where we can go to bed at nights thanking the universe that we are alive at this time. There's a lot I need to focus on today. One particular issue that I do not wish to have escape our present. A lot of us may have forgotten the past, and I have often emphasized the importance to never forget the past or take for granted the repetition of the past in the present. This is where we go to sleep, and we sleep too deep because we do not anticipate a repeat of the past. Therefore, we are often caught off guard. And when calamity strikes us, only then we awake to face the reality that it has already happened. And as long that it has happened, it has happened. No amount of crying, no amount of it's in God's hands, no amount of regret will undo what has happened. So we often hear prevention is better than cure. If we can prevent a disease from reaching our immune system, it is far better than being relaxed, careless, and then we have a contamination. We go about seeking the cure. Because while we are busy pursuing the cure, what happens? Our entire being must survive in the environment of being disease infested. Everything is on a standstill. Our lifestyles, our plans, our goals, our dreams must be put on hold because we were infected by something we took for granted that we could have prevented if we had prepared for the possibilities. I perpetuate this request. Don't forget the past, lest we are too tired and comfortable that the past comes back in a different gift wrap, but the results will be the same. When you open that package, it's the same content, just disguised as something else. The effects would be the same. Do not take the past for granted. I was awakened, not from my sleep, but from my consciousness when I stumbled upon something earlier today, and thanks to the person who sent it to me. I have not forgotten. At some point, I would have sought it out to make it a part of my show. But since the universe allowed it to come to my attention today, I thought it would be fitting for me to incorporate that into what I'm going to do today. I want to talk about that. I'll start with that, after which I want to talk about the Ministry of Education in Guyana, more specifically towards the Minister Priya Manikchan, if I pronounced it properly. And I want to spend some time on that idiot, Azruddin Muhammad. Also, I need to talk some more on the issues that are now being pursued leading up to the elections in September, a very critical time. So it is fitting for me to deal with the security of the Guyanese people. This is why I'm going to start with this clip that most of you are already familiar with, but may have forgotten because it went with time. Your actions today represents my theory that many of you forgot, keeps forgetting, and are taking the past for granted. The things I see you do on social media, the things you share and post on social media, bears that fact or speaks to that reality that you have forgotten. You may not have been a victim of that time, but your foreparents were. Your elders who are still alive were. Do not dismiss their experience. Their experience is your ammunition to face possible threats of that nature that may reoccur in the future. And the future could be tomorrow, could be tonight. The future is any second from now. The future is not a collective period of time. The future is 10 seconds from now, 1 minute from now. So anytime in the future, what I'm going to caution you on can repeat itself, because the evil still exists. The stain, the energy that induces and give rise and ignites these evil flame still exists within the Guyanese community from the top. They're the ones who often pour the fuel on the dry coal, and then they light the spark, and so it comes ablaze. They do that. With no further ado, are you familiar in the days when they had these squads running around as law enforcement executing? Some were themselves executed. In the time when the PNC did everything possible to bring down the Jagdeo government, everything possible, which involved crimes that you cannot even entertain, that you cannot even think could be scripted, that no human, especially not in Guyana, would have the capacity to think up. That level of criminality against other humans to whom they have lived amongst, ate with, rode in the buses with, shopped in the supermarkets with, some go to church with. You could not have fathomed that this was possible against a people, only that they bear a slightly different physical characteristics, which we can classify as a different ethnic racial group. All for what? The possibility or the lust to get into the offices where you have access to power, not to the benefit of the people you profess to care about, but for personal enrichment. The PNC subjected a nation continuously. It wasn't over with the death of the king, the demon king, Barnum. It wasn't over with him. As a matter of fact, when he died, evil lived. He had to die for the evil to rise up, so it can infect those who worshipped his legacy. It's like subscription. When you subscribe to such an evil man, you are saying yes to him possessing you. And remember, from all we would have learned from the past of his reign, he worked with witches, witchcraft, demons, jinns, spirits, old hags, Bakus. And after he died, he became one of them and infected those in his camp. It didn't stop. It continued. So I want to take you back to a time when the world bear witness to what was happening in that beautiful country. When I talked about Guyana being a beautiful country, I'm talking that it is a reality. Guyana is beautiful, not because of its landmass or the nature within Guyana, but the people. The people. There is an army that was created in the Barnum time, and they have infiltrated almost all of the Black communities throughout Guyana and recruited the vulnerable, the simple-minded, and the Blacks or the young Blacks who only had the ability to utilize 1% of their brains. You see, the Indian man, the typical Indian man that is born into an Indian home, has the capacity or the engineering and the upbringing based on his religious convictions to take advantage to 10% of his brain if he's nurtured properly. But unfortunately, the typical Negro does not have that biological ability. There's a disability amongst Negroes that they can only access, if left unsupervised, 1% of their brain. And that 1% of their brain does not deals with the ability to think and be rational. That 1% is just to translate feelings. So you find they're easily manipulated via their feelings. If it feels right, the brain gives permission. Go ahead and get it done. The rest of the Negroes who may have had the opportunity to access the 10%, like the Indian, of their brain, pay example or take a look as to where they live. What is the community like? Their teachers, from the age of infancy throughout their lives. Look at the communities that they were exposed to. It's never pro-black. Never. It's always a mixed community. Those blacks are able to access 10% or the full capacity of their brains, like the average Indian or Chinese or Caucasian. But if left in a slummy ghetto environment where it's only that development is not possible. They're kept stunted, stagnated within the region of 1% of their brain. So when the so-called leaders are looking for soldiers to be exploited for crimes against humanity, and I speak of the Guyanese situation, humanity as in the Indians, they go look in those ghettos and identified those blacks who only have mastered 1% of their brain, and they recruit those. Easy to control. Send them to go kill. They don't ask questions. They just go. Because to them, they are numb to that emotion, to says it is wrong. Simply because the 1% of their brain does not give them the ability to feel remorse. Here is one of the persons. I'm going to play the clip, and I want you to listen carefully. One of the individuals that I speak of that could have only accessed 1% of their brain, therefore they became a weapon to be used by those Barnum's vampires who intended to destabilize the Jagdeo government using the weapon of murder, racism, to intimidate and terrorize the Indians, just like their leader, their God King, had done in the 60s throughout his regime. You remembered this man's, I don't want to call him a man, but for the purpose of this broadcast, Sean Hines, this being, because this individual, regardless of what he may claim, what vulnerability, no human being can carry out such acts against people that in no way is a threat and be considered human. So this thing that I'm going to play here, I will speak further on his issue after you would have listened. I beg of you, try to tolerate. If you have heard it before, try to tolerate. Here it goes. Since a long time ago. All right, look at this. Here he is. We are talking to kill people. I do remember incidents of when the PPP was in power back there, when the one of the commotion, along with senior people who's in this government right now, asked me to go outside with a machine gun who was given to me by counterpart first, who's now deceased, to shoot up on the space, to cause a commotion, so they could go and kill people that go to the place on Church Street.
You understand? When we was going out, they like to go to murder or shoot up body place, whether they wanted, because if you shoot up people there and they're in case. When we be confronted by Fraser, we had Fraser and gangs at the time. And we had to head back to because we had a lot of people saying that they might come in straight. You understand? So all these things what they're saying I do and I do and I do. It's out today camp I come. They never gave me a tricycle. They never gave me a bicycle. When I asked Carl the night after I was in the presidency here, I asked him for $100 because I gotta go home to come back in the morning for 6 o'clock for report to duty. I asked him for $100 for the transportation. You know what he told and tell me? When you drink him milk, you drink him milk. That's what Carl told me. Tell me, when you drink him milk, you drink him milk. You understand? So I don't know who was it now. My dad, me. He's gonna teach me everything I know. You understand? When the Christ sent me Moshe back down to kill all the good fucking people in Moshe back down. Don't make Purika. With PJJ 45 one pick up. With a guy there down here bus stop was a whole police sergeant at QR at Iveri. And the driver there left me the guy named Bacchus that died now. And another guy, one named Peter, but mother still alive, who's willing to testify to this. When we go kill the coconut man was selling and 2 other people in the yard, and the driver left after shots fired. We have to stay here until the next night we can put the circle in place. We have to stay and then we Carmen is aware of this. Army North is aware of this, because that time they used a control in place. There was a guy named Skip who's a soldier, was the emperor, who's now in the yard. They're aware of this, because there was people who taught me things. There was people who trained me, there was people who sent me for training. So why they targeting me? Because it's totally looking for a living. Killing people is not my action. I just want to live it. I just want to be somewhere that I can get a money, so I can maintain a family and build a marriage. That's all I want to do. I don't want to kill anyone. Since a long time ago. Alright, look at this. I was there for my president. I was there for my body. I'll be back in the PhD time. All that I know, all these say that I do and I know. If they are taught me these things, they are taught me to kill people. I can remember incidents of when the PPP was in power back then. When they wanted a commotion, along with senior people who's in this government right now, asked me to go outside with a machine gun who was given to me by Colin McPherson, who's now deceased, to shoot up down the streets, to cause a commotion, so they could go and kill people like body place on Church Street. You understand? When we was going.
I hope you understood. I hope you heard. I could not have increased the volume, but I hope you heard. So if you heard clearly what that thing said, can you just let me know in the comments there? Because it's important to me if you heard what was said. You may have come across that clip circulating on social media. You may have been around at a time when that was broadcasted on television. But I want you to focus on the content of what he said. The plan was to create a false flag situation, then to blame it on innocent Indians, to give the PNC the reason to send their scouts to murder Indians. That's what he says. He called the names, Corbin, Norton, called the names of the people who were involved in that. He confessed that he was sent to murder somebody in the back dam there in Parika, executed the person, and had to hide from the police. This thing, this demonic thing, I don't know what became of him, if he's alive, if he's in prison, I don't know. But this is a clip or a recording that happened a few years ago. He recounted that just after the passing of the demon king Bornham, Desmond Hoyt, who allegedly was called Desmond Persaud because of his so-called love for Indian people, he is making confessions that what has happened always happened, even under the Hoyt regime. And from the age of Burnham to now, there has only been one target. One target throughout the modern post-independence history of Guyana. One target. And that's the Indian people. There seem to have been no other enemy to Guyana than the Indian, the East Indian. I had to play that because a lot of you forgot. Remembered, I've made many references to Gadraj, Home Affairs Minister. They went so far, the PNC opposition, to link Gadraj to a lot of the crimes that was happening in that time, stained that man beyond recognition, simply because their motive was, is, and will always be the enslavement, the oppression against the Indian or Indo-Guyanese. That will forever be the agenda of the PNC. And all those who came out of the PNC, whatever party they may have formed, it's just a sham. Just to trick the Indians of Guyana that, hey, we are separated from these people. We are no longer one of them. No matter how much you bleach your black skin, a nigger is a nigger. No matter how much you bleach. The only way you can represent an ideology of change is change itself. Not separation. Change itself. That thing, Sean Hines, like I said before, when he made those revelations and tried to justify his demonic actions to say that he only wanted to provide for his family, to pay his mortgage, and the best way to do that is robbing, murder, conspiracy, kidnappings. That's the best way to do that. While the typical Indian will have the same responsibility maybe even greater. But he starts a business. He takes a loan. He gets a second job. He asks for overtime on his current job to make up for the extra challenges financially that may come his way. If the Indian considers the possibility of committing those crimes as a means to an end, he's a part of a gang, and to have some kind of solidarity with this gang, he has to show his toughness because of his fear of the Negro. That's it. If it is up to the typical Indian, they would have nothing to do with Africans or African culture. Nothing other than helping when necessary, giving alms or charity when necessary, but never socializing, never community forming, if it's up to the typical Indian. But then you will say, that means he's racial. No. That means he's loyal to his identity. And he understands that to preserve that identity, he needs to stay in unison with the origin of that identity. That's what it means. It has nothing to do with anti this or anti that. Absolutely nothing to do with any of that. Because when you look at that situation there, as to what invaded the space and the air of the existence of the Guyanese Indian back in that time, the fear of even wanting to go to school, to stepping out in the neighborhood. If they have to go somewhere, it has to be in a crowd. The amount of vigilante groups that period gave rise to. It's amazing. And all of this usually happens around the time when the nation is preparing for general and regional elections. Look at the timeline. Consider the timeline as to when these things usually happens. It seems like something is invoked that poisons the air and resurrect all of these evil that is visited upon the people, always around elections time. I want to fast forward to today. A lot of you have sent me clips from evil people on social media. You see, if the cybersecurity arm of the government of Guyana is at work, they will have to build bigger prisons, larger prisons. But it seems like the government is taking a lot for granted. Or the department that deals with this cybersecurity, the ERC, they only function when it's convenient for them, because like I said, the Ethnic Relations Commission comprises largely of PNC people. And the only time their voices are heard is if they need to bring attention to some so-called oppression, marginalization against the blacks. That's the only time it is actually it is actually you know active, or is activated. Otherwise to that, it sleeps. I saw the clip where this man, from what I've seen, I think he resides somewhere there in the United States, where he's actually showing or demonstrating with a cup with ice and something that looks like a kind of milky substance. He's on live camera on social media producing a clip to tell people how to make a liquid substance that will poison Indians. Some of you have seen it. You sent it to me. Live on social media. How, as he said, to poison Indians. I mean, if your intentions is to kill someone, there are many ways you could do that. He was suggesting and recommending doing it via poisoning. That's what he did on social media. Was there anything official from the ERC condemning that? Were they aware of that clip? Did the PNC apparatus or their communications department came out and criticized that? Because that man is a PNC supporter. Did they come out and criticize that? Did you see anything anywhere where they say this is wrong, you cannot call for violence against the people? Have you seen that? The answer would be no. The Village Voice that wants sanctions against me. Is there anything in that online magazine that criticized or calls for the arrest of that person who is making a video telling the black people how to kill Indians, calling for genocide on the internet? Is there anything that condemns that? The answer would be no. What can I say regarding that situation? I'm not the law. I'm not head of the cybercrime unit. I'm not the person who has the means to get to these people. Because if I were, I would have tracked him. Whichever part of the world he was, I would have tracked him down, get him arrested, and get him sent back to Guyana to face trial. Because that what he had done there is targeting the Indians in Guyana. He needed to face trial in Guyana. I would have done that. And all the people who have commented or applauded that, I would have copied all their information. Whether it's a fake profile or not, the IP address wouldn't necessarily be fake. Even if it's bounced around and bounced around, you can get to where it actually came from and locate each and every one of those individuals and deal with them accordingly. They're calling, some are doing it outright, some are doing it in a subtle way. They're calling for the genocide of Indo-Guyanese The same they have done back in the day when they were in government. And now they are in the opposition. They're using every means necessary to drive and instill fear in the decent Indians of Guyana so they would not go out and vote, or they would not return to their mother country to vote. If they stay home and stay out, the count of the PPP vote is going to go down, which as a consequence can result in the loss of the September general elections. If that happens, there may never be another chance for the PPP to get a chance at government. If the PPP loses the upcoming elections, that may be it. They may never again get another chance. What's my solution to that? All the things you've heard, be it jokingly, be it seriously, be it as a provocation, be it a propaganda stunt, be it a talking point against the ruling government, the ruling party government, everything that is said, I implore you to take it serious. Don't just push it aside. Take it serious and watch your back every second you get. Wherever you go, whatever you do, don't take it for granted, because they're telling you, the blacks are telling you, the thugs are telling you what they want to do to you. They're putting it out there. They're telling you. You have a slight misunderstanding with them in the public. They're ready to pick up a machete, a gun, a weapon against you, because they are ready. It's in their DNA to act out violence against the Indians. It's in their DNA. Regardless, you have to fight fire with fire. More on this on a subsequent show, but I need to go through the things I want to talk about here. Minister Priyamanik Chan, you're one of the ministers that, in my opinion, deserves to be replaced. You should be replaced. I mean, in my opinion, there is much more that you could do. You're not 50%. If you're not performing at 50%, then you're a failure. I would give you 20%. Protest should not happen. Period. It shouldn't happen. The fact that you had such a long protest, months of protests, it's a failure, not in the government, but in you as a minister. The second thing that concerns me, what happened to the days when parents were held responsible for their children not turning up at school? What happened to those days? What happened to the days when the ministry worked in conjunction with the law enforcement and social services, Ministry of Social Services and Human Services, when they worked together to travel the street, peruse the streets, and pick up all the strays that are of school age and are not attending school? What happened to that time? If you want the African to have the ability to utilize more than 1% of their brain, you have to force that ability. This man, Sean Hines, is what I've talked about before. Only 1% of the brain. Look at what he did. All the thugs that are looting, burning, that hotel that was burned down, putting stuff around the streets, attacking people, robbery on the arms, 1% of their brain. That's why they're so susceptible to do these things. They can be easily controlled, called up and say, hey, we want you to do this, do this. You have the opportunity to change that. Not to undo the damage of the past, but to protect the future. The Ministry of Education is there to administer, to make sure that education is available to every individual. Even so now that it's free from nursery to university. It is free. What excuse a parent has for not sending that child or children to school? What are the excuses? They get lunch from the government. It's free education. They get all these kinds of stuff. Plus, they get money to buy clothing. What is the excuse of the parents? The parents may not have taken advantage of the education was available to them, so they don't see the value in it to instill it in their children. You, as the minister, you need to see the value of it. So where the parents have shortcomings, the government steps in. Every child must have access to an education, even if they don't want it. You force it on them. You force it on them by making the parents responsible, punishing the parents if they neglect to give their child access to education. It should be mandatory. It shouldn't be a choice. If I feel like sending my kid to school, no. There should be laws that are making it impossible for a parent to keep their child at home. There should be proper accountability in every school. The same way you clock in on your job, kids should clock in when it comes to their school. That should go into the main server. Every school should have a main server in a digital card or some badge or something the child scans when they enter, goes into the system. So you check, oh, this didn't come to school. This didn't come to school. And automatically the parents are notified, or the agencies or those who should be involved are notified. They get the addresses, they check on the child. If it's somewhere that the parents, for some reason, didn't feel like doing it, they're fined. You hold them responsible. You want to save the nation and its future? That's your ministry. This is not about pictures or some programs and some thing for some Photoshop or photo op. This is about taking the education serious, because a nation that's stupid are easily controlled by evil people. You have seen what is happening. Look at all the chaos that happened recently. Look at the continued crimes that are occurring. Look at the neighborhoods where the people are coming from, and look at the age group. You had one that was shot in a Chinese supermarket the other day, 16 years old. 16. You have another one that murdered a politician, 14 years old. Look at the age. That has the ability to kill another human. If the systems were in place to make sure that they attend school, and you control their activities from nursery all the way to university, you wouldn't have these issues. Hatred would not be alive, because education will kill it. But in the absence of education, hatred, racism, emotional instability occupies the 1% of the brain that controls the actions of the body. And when that 1% is possessed by the evil of the PNC or the evil of the operators, these young men and women just, without thinking, do their bidding. No remorse. It's a normal thing. They drive on the road, they're just careless, they're just callous. It's evil. Unfathomable. I mean, we have a typical case with this Muhammad guy. If there's somebody from the ministry that were checking on him, he would not turn out to be this stupid. He should have been checked on throughout his life to make sure that he attended every class. And if he had a problem with learning, give him special schools, special education, put him in a department where they can spend more time. Because when you have children that are slow and you have them in a normal setting, the rest of the class is moving forward and leave them behind. So they have an issue. Then eventually they don't have this motivation to attend classes because the other kids are smart and they have an issue. But it's not that they're dumb. It's just that they have a different mechanism and their brain operates differently. It could be a problem from genetics or during pregnancy. There's so many factors. So you separate them, you put them in different children of like-mindedness. That's why in the school system we have A, B, C, and D. But that's what the ministry need to do. The other point I want to talk about, Minister Priya Manikchan, you have to be more forceful with these unions. More forceful. You would have seen what happened to the Jagdeo regime, how the PNC manipulated the unions, and almost nothing got done. How disastrous was that period when it comes to the education system? The government has, in the Jagdeo time, most of the schools were built and renovated. There's so much that President Jagdeo did regarding educating the nation. Guyana has some of the smartest people in the Caribbean. Matter of fact, Guyana has the best education system in the whole of CARICOM. But it's constantly undermined by the PNC. Because if Guyanese shine, it makes the government looks good. It has happened under the Jagdeo regime, under the Ramatar regime, and now under the Ali regime. The only toxic injection that continues to penetrate the healthy growth of the Guyanese education system is the PNC, the propaganda, and the stooges via the union and the teachers that are largely PNC teachers, black teachers, are undermining the success of the students' learning because the vendetta is against an Indian government. So you as a minister need to overlook all of that and get to the source. You need to identify all the teachers that are working in conjunction with the PNC's plan to perform terrible so the government looks bad when they can do better. But they're purposely performing ill so that the government gets a negative stain. They want to leave the country, let them go. It is better for you to import competent teachers that are unbiased, have no prejudice, have nothing to gain by having partisanship. They come to do a job, and they're rewarded based on their they get incentives based on their performance. Bring teachers from other countries. Education is universal. If the ones that are there are failing to do their job because they have a personal issue with who is in power, give them early retirement. You know who they are. You can see their performance. Like I said, check their social media. Even the teachers should be screened. Examine their feed, look at what they're doing, look at what they're sharing, look at the comments they're making, and then you know this is why the education system isn't performing, because of the teachers. And who does it look bad on? You, the minister. And when you take a bad name, it stops with the president. He can't go teach every class. That is not a department that he can take over. He's doing a lot with the others, but you have to function as a minister. Drain the teaching service from the bad teachers, from the bad officers, from the people that you already know that are there to affect the functioning and the performance of the smooth running of the ministry. You have to get rid of them. That's your mandate. Otherwise, to that, it will not make a difference coming up to the election, because that may be a factor too in your manifesto that you present for the new terms that's coming. It may also be a factor. All of these things the opposition is going to use against the government's chances of re-election. They will say, hey, look at your children. The Ministry of Education is not looking at your children. They're not going to school. They're not motivated because there are no opportunities. There are no jobs. All these things they would use to make you look bad as a minister, which is not a matter of fact, but they're going to use it. So you have to be proactive. I always say proactive. You understand? Be prepared for what's coming. Imagine what they will come with and build a resistance against it. Imagine what they will come with and build a resistance against it. You know what the tactics are forever. They use the same tactics. They continue to use the same tactics before every elections. It's the same playbook. It's the same strategy. It's the same crimes, the same violence, the same thing since the Barnum time. It continues. So you have to build a mechanism of immunity so that they have to be creative now, come with something else. But it's the same playbook, the same thing they continue to do. And it's catching, it keeps meeting the government of God. Then you have to scramble to see, shit, how are we going to solve this issue? No, it's the same thing that they've been doing before. They continue to do that. It's nothing new. Prepare the base of the PPP. Prepare the base. Some of the best teachers in the Guyanese education system are Indian teachers, if not the best. Focus on them. They're the loyalists. They have the children's interests at heart. They want to bring out the best in the African child because they have a lot at stake. If they can make an African child to be an angel, a good citizen, who benefits? The Indian community. Because that child will not grow up to become a thug and a stooge for the PNC to use violence against the Indians. No, the child grew up to be productive, a contributor towards the growth and stability of the country, Guyana. It starts with education. Focus more on getting more teachers, maybe from India, from Cuba, wherever you can find them, that doesn't have an agenda to create destabilization, to create propaganda, and to use a weapon of ignorance to control the vulnerable blacks so that they can be available when the PNC wants it to use violence or use as a weapon against the law-abiding citizens of Guyana. Anyway, there's another point, but I'll leave that for the next live. On the next live, I'll deal with that. But for now, I'll take a break now. I want to thank you for your time. And we'll see each other again in the future. The only person who has your back is the one that looks like you. to the Indian community of Guyana, the only people, they are doing a bad job at it, but at least they're trying, who can keep you safe and keep Guyana going, keep prosperity prospering, is the PPP. Don't ever take the past for granted, lest you become a victim of your own slumber. 2020 riots. This month, last month, riots perpetuated against who? The Indians. By who? The blacks. Keep that in mind.